Happy Halloween, everyone. Welcome in the Golden Blue Dude. I'm going to be your host tonight, Joey, because Golden Blue Dude is sick. His whole family is not feeling well. He was coming all the way up until a few minutes ago, and he just couldn't make it. So I'm going to fill in for him. But, hey, we got some great guests in the back room ready to come in. I'm going to bring them in right now. We got One Scoop John. What's going on, John?
Hey, Joe, I'm glad I could make it.
I am too, buddy. We also have Will, our resident Notre Dame fan. What's going on, Will?
What's up, Joey and John? Excited to talk some college football.
What size you wearing, Will? Are you?
It's a Chewbacca onesie.
Yeah, I thought it was. Yeah, I'm ready for Halloween. So happy Halloween, everyone. I would have thought for a minute maybe it was April Fool's since I had to do a show really like this in really short notice, but no, it's Halloween. So, John, tell everybody where to find you at before we ever even get started here, because I want everyone to know where to find both of you. So, John, tell them where to find you.
Well, first of all, my costume tonight is Floridian, and really it's because I forgot my regular glasses in the car, so I got my prescription sunglasses today, also in honor of Golden Blue Dude. So you can find me at John Diadamo on Twitter. It's here on the handle there. I'm also I help moderate the College Football After Dark show on Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, every Sunday night at 10:45 p.m. Eastern. By the way, that's where Tide Guy last night accurately predicted that Brian Harsin was going to get fired. So if you had watched College Football After Dark, you would have known 12, 16 hours in advance that Brian Harsin was going to get fired. Also, I do a show with D4 Sports, the Michigan Review Preview.
Good deal. Will, tell everybody where to find you at, man. You got a brand new channel, and you're burning it up over there.
Yeah, you can find me over at Will ND on YouTube. I do a fun show. We try to do it every Thursday, but I think it's going to be Friday this week with Jeffrey from Only Talk Sports, and I'm also trying to add Jackson Johnson on there. Just a fun little pick'em show, and I feel like all three of us have a lot of knowledge, so hopefully we can help you win some money maybe one of these weeks. And just have fun talking about the games, and with three guys that I feel like we're on the younger side. We all know a lot about college football.
It's true.
I'll be honest with everyone in the chat. If you want to learn about football and you want to get some knowledge about certain teams or whatever, any one of these guys right here could help you. But Will and Jeffrey, and I think John would agree with this, Will and Jeffrey and Jackson over there, man, them guys, they really know a lot about college football, not just their teams in particular, every team out there. So
yeah, they're good.
It's really unreal.
Yeah.
I also started doing the Notre Dame post-game show on the Voice of College Football. And we did a bit of a Syracuse wrap-up and Clemson preview with Jordan Bowman. So that was a lot of fun. So you can check that out on the Voice of College Football channel.
That's right, yeah. We're on Voice of College Football on the Notre Dame channel. So, yeah, it's also on the main channel, too. So, well, let's talk a little bit about Brian Harsin. So, and I don't guess it was any surprise to anybody. I don't think there's any surprise to anybody that Brian Harsin was going to be fired. Now, I kind of was surprised that they fired him now. I thought it would be at the end of the season. But, hey, like you said, Ty Guy predicted it. So have a lot of other people. But so what do y'all think about who do you think will replace him down there at Auburn?
Well, I'm hearing Lane Kiffin and Hugh Freeze are the two top candidates. But, of course, West Virginia might outbid Auburn for Hugh Freeze. Or I also heard Hugh Freeze might have been blackballed by the SEC. So they're going to have – so if Auburn wants Hugh Freeze, they're going to have to get him approved. So that could also be interesting. But, yeah, those are the two main guys I think they're going after.
Yeah, Lane Kiffin for sure.
To the chat real quick. I will put the link in a little bit and let some of you come in here and ask some questions and things and stuff. We'll get through a few topics here first, and then we'll just set a ground the basis of what we're doing. So I'm sorry, Will, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the two main candidates that they're looking at, just from what I've heard around Auburn circles, is Lane Kiffin and Hugh Freeze. Of course, I think Auburn thinks that they're the bigger job than Ole Miss right now, but the way that Ole Miss has been going up trajectory-wise and that Auburn's going down, I'm not sure Lane's going to walk from Oxford to Auburn, but we'll see. And also Hugh Freeze, who just got a big extension at Liberty. But these days that doesn't mean much because Auburn can just go and buy it out.
Yep.
But of course, West Virginia also wants Hugh Freeze, so it could be a bidding war between those two schools.
Isn't it funny that Lane Kiffin is now on the short list for every open job when it seems like just yesterday he was getting fired on the tarmac? And now he's literally every open job, it's Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
So I've heard some Mountaineer fans say they'd like to get Brian Harsin. I've heard Mountaineer fans say, well, why don't we hire Brian Harsin? And I'm sitting there going, why?
What?
Yeah, what?
How is that a step up?
Y'all talking? Yeah, I know it. That's not a step up. That's ridiculous. Now, here's what I'm thinking. Auburn, I think the best fit at Auburn, in my honest opinion, is Matt Rule. I think that's the best fit, especially right now. The program's been in some turmoil. They've been in a little bit of trouble. I think Matt Rule go in there and straighten the thing out, just like he did at Baylor, and get him back on the winning side of football.
Now, the problem with that, Joey, is that I heard that Rule is kind of burnt out from football right now and that he wanted to take a year off and be in the broadcast booth, whether it's with ESPN or Fox. And I think Auburn, I don't think they want to wait around for him for a year. But I definitely like that idea. But just from what I've heard about Rule and the circles around him is that he wants to take a year off.
Please understand, folks, that Matt Rule has a $40 million buyout. That he is going to be paid, meaning he can chill for a year, 2 years, and just let the offers come, and he'll take the one that's obviously most lucrative, has the most resources, and we all know A&M is probably going to come open pretty soon. Mm-hmm. Maybe this year, maybe next year. A&M, I think, would be the choice for somebody like Matt Rule.
Yeah, him and Urban are definitely going to be targeted for A&M for sure.
I agree there. I agree with Urban for sure for A&M. I think that's going to be their biggest target, is trying to get Urban Meyer. Now, I don't think if I was at a university, I would be totally against hiring Urban Meyer, just simply because, is he going to have a brain tumor again tomorrow? Is he going to have a heart attack? What's going to happen to him? Obviously, nothing's
off the field issues.
Yeah, not field issues, am I going to get up one morning and all of a sudden see him grabbing some girl in a bar? I worry about things like that. I worry about that from my university. So I know if I was at Texas A&M, I would probably say something like that. Be worried about that. So last night, I know we discussed it a lot about the Big 12 contract, and let me lay something out here. And I have the graphic. And unfortunately, I can't find that graphic. I don't know what I've done with it. But the Big 12,
I can get it.
I had a lot of people say, hey, they're getting $50 million a team. No. That might include after everything, tier 3 rights and everything. But it's going to average out to around $32 million per team, around $32 million. And then they'll have all their other things from playoffs and their tier 3 rights and all that come in there. That could project them up to $50 million a year. Is that what y'all understand it to be as well? Did you say you had the graphic, John?
I'm just looking at Tony's. Oh, I know it's somewhere. Hold on.
Yeah, that's what I had downloaded it and I can't find it. But yeah, the $50 million, and there's been a lot of reports out there that $50 million was per team. Every year, $50 million per team, right off the start, plus tier 3 rights. No, that's not true. It's like $32 million, and then you add in the playoffs, the playoff expansion, all those teams. You'll make some money there, and you'll make money off of tier 3 rights. So, which is like your ESPN Plus and all of that for people that don't know what ESPN or what tier 3 is. So while John's looking for that. There it is, John. You brought it in, I believe, didn't you?
Yep.
All right, you ready? Let me add that to the stream. All right. So this is compliments of Tony Alsonmore, who sat down, ran all the numbers, looked at everything, read all the contracts and everything, and this is what he's come up with. So the Big Ten is right at $75 million per team, and then projected another $25 million for playoffs and tier 3 rights, bringing them to $100 million. SEC is right at $60 million a team with another $25 million for playoff 2 or 3 rights, bringing them to 85. Big 12, 32 with another 25, bringing them to 57. ACC's at 31 plus 25, bringing them to 56. Now, the Pac-12's not signed anything yet, but they turned down $30 million. So they must think they're going to get a little bit more. So let's say they get $32 million per team and $25
That's
million.
what they think. They think they'll go up to 32, right. 33.
Right. They're thinking they could get a little bit more. So they turned everything down. It could come back to bite them. I think they need to bring in San Diego State and SMU or somebody like that to expand a little bit. I don't know if it's going to do anything, but they got to realize they lost the Los Angeles market. Los Angeles market's gone now. There's no more UCLA. There's no more USC, and that's killed the Pac-12 revenue. So that's how I feel about it. And I think that increased this Big Ten revenue, knowing that USC and UCLA are coming in.
Yeah, I think there's a chance it goes down from 30. I think that they had their chance to negotiate it. And I think at this point, everybody's gonna say, look, we've got plenty of content. We don't need you at the same level, except for the teams I would say would be Oregon and Washington both have the ratings to be interesting, but then they're literally going to be carrying a conference that has, let's just say, a little bit of dead weight when it comes to teams that nobody really watches that much.
Yeah.
I feel like they gotta get more than 30 if they want to stay what they want to be. I mean, I feel like you kind of have to turn that down, and you have to try to go big, get someone to give you a bunch of money, because I think Pac-12's in survival mode now. They need a big contract to stay afloat, and I don't know if they're going to get it. So this is scary times if you're a Pac-12 fan.
I don't know if you would agree with me, but I think what's hurting the Pac-12 is the Pac-12 network. I think that Pac-12 network that nobody can get, nobody can be able to tune into it. They put these crazy games over on the Pac-12 network, and nobody can watch them. Like they done. What was the big game this year? UCLA and Utah.
USC, Oregon
on the
State.
Pac-12 network. Okay, and they put it over on the Pac-12 network where nobody can watch it. I think that I think that's hurting that revenue quite a bit there, that Pac-12 network. And I think it's the same thing that hurt the ACC. I think it's the same thing that hurt the ACC when they done their contract, the ACC network, because at the time nobody could get it. Now it's expanded now, but Pac-12 is going to have to expand that network so people can get it. I was looking at something on here too. So SEC. Now, see, this is where I can't figure out. I understand there's some bigger television markets in the Big Ten, but there's no bigger teams than what's in the SEC. When you're talking about Alabama, Georgia, Florida, LSU, those teams would top the TV ratings to me over every team in the Big Ten, with the exception of maybe Ohio State, Michigan. So I can't understand that big difference of $15 million per team there. But
Tide Guy was saying last night that the $60 million was before Oklahoma and Texas got added, whereas the 75 is with the Big Ten is with the with USC and UCLA. So I think the sense is that $60 million is going to get renegotiated.
Yeah. I agree there. I agree. I agree with that guy. I think so. All right. I will take that out of the stream.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and post a link in here in case somebody has a question. Now, you won't have to be on camera once you come in, but you will have to have your camera on in the back room. So you'll have to show me who you are and everything before you can come into the chat. So let's talk a little bit about these upcoming games this week. Well, by the way, let me ask you guys, how did you guys do this week on your picks?
I did pretty good. I mean, there weren't really any. Obviously, I
probably
swung and missed with Louisville and Wake in that game, but I think the other results were pretty expected.
I'm gonna bring people in here one at a time to talk to us, and then we'll keep rotating because I've got a bunch of people in the back room coming in. All right, so our resident
Morning,
Japan
gentlemen.
guy.
How's
Hey,
it going,
what's
buddy?
going on?
Hey,
How's Japan, buddy?
Been good. I leave in a month and a half. Head back
All
home.
right.
Head back up to Morgantown, you know.
So, what'd you think about your Mountaineers this weekend?
Did not go the way I expected. If I remember correctly, that's the first time TCU's won in Morgantown.
No,
No,
they beat us in
Okay.
20. They beat us in 2012 or 2013.
Okay.
Remember their quarterback, and he was high fiving Danny Holgerson on the sideline. Do you remember that? You might have been too young then, but
I slightly remember that.
yeah.
But
I did okay, Joey, by the way. Answer your question. Tide Guy got
You did
me
okay?
again, though.
yeah, I was hoping we could have pulled it out in the end. Didn't go.
You know, I was happy that we played a good game.
We did. We really did. There were parts
Yeah,
where
we
there were
did play
places
good.
we could have put TCU away, but we just didn't capitalize on those.
Did you agree with the
decided to
onside kick at that
capitalize on
time?
our mistakes.
Did you agree with the onside kick at that time, or do you think we should have just kicked it
No.
away?
No, we should have just kicked it away, be done with it.
Yeah. I mean, there's almost
I
5 minutes to
don't
go in the
know
game.
what Neil Brown was, or like any of the coaches in general. I don't know what any of them were thinking. Yeah, we should do an onside kick. No.
Yeah.
No. 9 times out of 10,
That was 5
onside
minutes.
kick won't work.
But now,
Just boot it away,
honestly,
see what happens.
to their defense, in a way, to their defense, we hadn't stopped TCU. They hadn't
No.
stopped us, but we hadn't stopped them either. So, but an onside kick, they just had a shorter field. If we'd have given them a longer field, you know, things can happen. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's why I would have kicked it away. But, you know, I guess it's according to how you look at it. And they probably looked
Yeah.
at it as they're going to drive the field and take every bit of the clock, and we're not going to be able to stop them, and they're going to score and win this game. So we try an onside kick, and then maybe if they do score, they score quickly. We get the ball back, and we can score. So I don't know. I guess it's according to how you look at it.
There were also other plays in that game where we could have scored. It could have been a much higher scoring game for both teams, but we just, once again, didn't, much like the Texas Tech game, we didn't capitalize on those.
I feel like
That's right.
WVU is like a coach away from being good. Like the performances are good.
Yeah.
Like the players should play pretty well. I just think if you get
We're
a
not a bad
guy
team.
that knows what he's doing more than Neil Brown does, I feel like you guys will be much
We're
more
not a
successful.
bad team by any stretch. Even through the past like 50 years, West Virginia has historically been a very good football team. We just haven't recently been able to capitalize, and I think that's a coaching problem. Whether
Here's the thing. You guys
Neil
have the
Brown
pieces.
continues, and whether Neil Brown continues to be coach for the Mountaineers after this season, if he does, and he actually has a winning season that isn't 2020, congrats, all the more power to him. If we come to find out he's not our guy, much like we're doing now, we should be, just in case, looking for replacements. Be that Hugh Freeze, be that in some people would get mad at me for this, but Rich Rod, maybe.
There's been people saying Rich Rod could come back. Absolutely.
I mean,
There's
Rich
a lot
Rod
of
had a
people
winning
say
record.
that.
He's like, I think the second highest in the past 50 years. Yeah. Second highest winning percentage in West Virginia's coaching history in the past 50 years. The only person who hasn't beat is Bill Stewart, and that's by 2 percentage points.
Well, you guys are one.
Yeah.
I feel like you're one conductor away. You have the orchestra. You just need the conductor.
We got the instruments. We
because-
got the orchestra. We just need a conductor.
Because if you look at this, so I'm looking at the stats now, just the head to head, and you guys had more first downs. You had pretty much equivalent passing, rushing, etc. And when you're in that, when you have a statistical dead heat, and you have that score differential, a lot of times it does come down to that coaching and some of those game time decisions. And
It does.
so I would agree with all of you. I think you've got the quarterback. Is this his last year, or Daniels, or
No,
is he?
he has JT is one more year.
Okay,
Eligibility.
so you've got a quarterback. You've got the pieces. If you bring in somebody who knows what to do on day one, and they don't need any on-the-job training, but they know what to do on day one, then I think you could get yourselves in a great spot next year.
Even then, we also have Nico Markiel. So in case JT leaves next year, we could always start Nico Markiel. Now, do I think JT will
we've
transfer?
got talented quarterback.
No, I don't think he will. I think he'll stay put. But I could be wrong. I don't know what's going on in his mind.
Talented quarterback room. We have a talented quarterback room, talented running back room. We've got a talented wide receiver room, but we could use a couple more. We do have a talented offensive line. Our secondary and the defense is where we're so weak. I mean, we are so bad. There are Division III teams that have better defense than we do. Now, maybe not on the line. We're pretty stout on the line, But when you're talking about the secondary, man, we look like a junior high school. I swear we do.
Do you think Shepard has a better defense than we do?
I believe so.
Shepard.
No, but that's
You guys have Jeff Castile, and you're not using him as DC.
Exactly. That was. I bet.
That's kind of mind-boggling.
I've been saying that forever.
Yeah.
Put him as an analyst and put Jordan Leslie. Have you ever heard of Jordan Leslie, John? Do you know who Jordan Leslie is? Right. Nobody knows who Jordan Leslie is. Now, he's not proven anything. So we pick him our defensive coordinator because he's friends with Neil Brown, because they're good friends.
Nepotism.
Gotta love that. Look at Iowa for how that's working out.
Right.
Yeah, boys
John,
clubs just don't work in sports.
No.
Just hiring your friends, it doesn't work. We saw this with Notre Dame with Brian Kelly. It just didn't work.
I like John and everything, and I consider John a great friend. But John, if I ever start coaching a team, that don't mean I'm going to hire you to be my wide receivers coach. Because you probably don't know a thing about running routes.
Absolutely.
So.
Nope.
Exactly.
I could be a great freaking analyst when it comes to offensive play calling and stuff like that. But I could never be an OC, and I could never be a wide receivers coach. And I think that's what Neil Brown's doing is he's putting his buddies in there.
Putting his buddies in there, that's making him a bad coach when I don't think he's that bad of a coach. Mountaineer, you got anything else for us, man?
Right now, not much, but I do have a little hypothetical for y'all. Do y'all just in some way, shape, or form see how they've been performing, which is a shock to me because they usually suck? Do you think UConn could make it to a bowl? Yay or nay?
What's their schedule look like?
They just beat Boston College. They play UMass, Liberty, Army.
That Army game is a 50-50, I think.
Yeah,
I would beat the Army, so I think 5-7. They'll beat UMass. Unfortunately, I don't think they'll beat Liberty, even though I don't like the school. As someone that lives in Virginia, no one likes Liberty. They're a bunch of narcissists. That student body is so. But I don't think they'll beat Liberty, and I don't think they'll beat Army. I think Army will pound it down their throat.
Tell us how you really feel, Will.
Yeah, spit it out, Will. Don't be around the bush
I think
so much.
It would be great for us if they went bowling. It would be great for strength of schedule. I'd be down. They could beat Army. They could potentially beat Liberty. Boston College isn't exactly the barometer of an amazing team, but it's an achievement. I'd call that an achievement.
Now let's remember Boston College lost to Virginia Tech. So
yeah.
Well,
what is an achievement is they put up 14 points against Syracuse, or when Syracuse was 3-0. So all the more credit to them. 10 points against NC State, they still lost.
Yeah.
I could that Army game. I agree with Will. It's a 50-50. Do I think that'll work? I don't know. Army could be having a down day that day, and UConn could pull up the upset. It'd be funny because they were so good in the Big East, much like West Virginia, and just afterwards, UConn took a nosedive. West Virginia, not so much, but we did go down a little bit compared to those days.
Well,
Unfortunately,
I think when you say UConn was good in the Big East, okay, I think back to 2007 or 8. I don't remember the year. UConn was like number 9 or something in the country, and they came into Morgantown, and I think we beat them 63-14. I mean, so UConn wasn't that great. It's just that they had some luck in the Big East, and a little bit softer schedule then. So but when they had to face a real team, they got their doors blown off. So that was the difference there. But I mean, I don't have nothing against UConn.
No, I wish them all the best. But I mean, being the current state of their football program, I kind of feel sorry for them in a way. If I were to phrase, I can't really phrase it any other way. I feel sorry for them. They weren't
Golden Blue
terrible.
Come in for a minute.
Liberty is paying their coach more than West Virginia does. Yes, it's true.
Yeah. Well,
That's that Jerry Falwell family money, man.
Hugh Freeze deserves more than Neil Brown.
With Hugh Freeze's extension, and of course, as Will said when I was not here, doesn't mean much. Who do you think we could grab? I've heard Matt Rule. I've heard Rich Rod. But I don't know how many people would agree with that. Tom Herman. Yeah.
I like Tom Herman.
Me too.
I wouldn't mind Tom Herman. Tom Herman, I think, would be a good fit here. He knows what he wants.
You need an offensive mastermind. He can do it.
I think Tom Herman would be our best bet. I really do.
Tom Herman's a strategy.
And another one that I think might be a good fit just because he would understand the culture at West Virginia because he used to play us all the time, and that's Charlie Strong. Charlie Strong understands the culture at West Virginia. He used to play us every year, and he would make a good coach at West Virginia, I think. So, well, Roddy Mountain, we got a lot of people in the back room waiting to come in, man.
All righty.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming in. All right. Happy Halloween. Oh, by the way, do you guys over in Japan? Do they celebrate anything about Halloween or anything?
Yeah, they do. There's not like anything like trick or treating or nothing, but they do have like Halloween parties everywhere. The two big ones are in Tokyo, and then where I live in Osaka.
Oh, okay. All right, man. Well, have a good day, and we'll see you later, buddy.
Happy Halloween,
thanks for coming in.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Halloween's over for me.
All right, we've got Kenny coming in. What's going on? Mountaineer there with Kenny.
Not much. How y'all doing?
Doing well,
Good,
Kenny.
man.
Doing
Good.
well, bud.
Good to see you.
You got a question for
good
these
to see y'all.
experts here? You got a question
Yeah,
for these two
first
experts
question.
here?
Yeah, first two. I've got like 2 or 3 questions. Is there any way that y'all see that if we do bring some more people in that are bring some more teams in, that the deal could go up? Is there anyone that pushes the needle?
In the Big 12? For the Big 12?
Yeah, for the Big 12. Because they got that clause in there to where if we get more people in, it don't drop the price.
I think the only one that would move the
Hey,
needle.
Will, you interested in joining the Big 12?
Yeah, the only ones that would move the needle, and they're not coming to Big 12, would be Oregon, Washington, and Notre Dame. I don't see anyone else.
Maybe the Arizona schools.
I don't think they would move the needle. Do you? I mean, you pick
Oregon.
up a Denver market.
But what happens if
Oregon-
ACC squashes and we bring in the rivals that we've been wanting that brings in the revenue for our teams? Do you think that could push the needle?
Well, I don't see the ACC squashing myself. I mean, I don't. Now, this is where, I mean, I know Golden Boot has different theories about this and stuff, and they're all, and who knows what's going to happen. I mean, anybody could be right here, but there's still an autonomy 5. So if they lose a few teams, they'll just add a few teams, and all of a sudden those teams will become Power 5. They'll add a Appalachian State or somebody like that, and they'll all of a sudden become Power 5. Because they can't lose the A5 status. You could say, well, they're not really a Power 5 team all you want to, but they're still an A5 conference. And unless that conference was to dissolve itself, which isn't going to happen, they'll just keep adding teams. Now, could teams leave? Yeah, but why would they leave to come to the Big 12 and make the same amount of money? Because it's going to be roughly the same amount. $32 million for the Big 12, $31 million for them. Same 25 million for Tier 3 and all the other stuff. So, you know, it's sort of like moving conferences for not really a big reason, if that makes sense. That's how I feel about it. I don't know. John and Will might feel differently about that.
Yeah, I think
What do you
it's
think?
going to be hard for anybody who isn't the Big Ten and the SEC, honestly. Because I think what's eventually going to happen is they're going to be the super conferences. And this is going to take
no one wants the super conferences.
Yeah, but they're going to happen. So about I would say it'll be about 5 to 10 years. I don't think it's going to happen overnight. But that's the future of the sport with NIL coming and taking over. You're looking at Fox versus ESPN proxy war, and that's what's going to keep happening. So for now, I think the Big 12 and the Pac-12 and the ACC are doing the deals that they can. Pac-12 kind of in trouble. They need to get something nailed pretty soon. But I think they're treading water until the inevitable merger.
Yeah. Now,
Gizmo,
my other question
agrees or disagrees. I don't know.
Okay, my other question is there any clause in there? Is there any buyout? Like if SEC comes knocking, can they leave, or is it going to be a big buyout?
Well, if you're asking me, I think it's going to be, like I said, I don't think it's going to happen immediately, right? So I think it'll happen over the course of the next decade and beyond. But as you saw, we've had these teams now shift. Oklahoma, Texas, USC, UCLA. Deals were negotiated. Money exchanged hands, and now they're moving conferences. Some in the next year or two. That I think Oklahoma and Texas are still 2025 or 26. But I don't see that staying either. So the answer is it can happen if they want it to happen.
Yeah, I think this new contract being signed early is sort of like our hint that Texas and Oklahoma are on their way out sooner rather than later. Don't you? I mean, I don't think we would have agreed to this contract, or I mean, I don't think that this contract would have even been offered if they didn't know that when Oklahoma and Texas were leaving, and that, you know. So I think they're not going to stick around. I think the Big 12 is going to just allow them to get out early, take a little bit of money from them and send them on their way. I think Brent Yormark wants to just start from scratch and do the best he can. That's how I feel.
Okay. Now, my last question. I know we got Jeff Castillo there at hand, and we could pull him in. But if he doesn't want it, why not go after Jamel Adai? which was on the same staff, and everywhere he goes, the defense increases. Why not go after him as the defensive coordinator?
Well,
No.
let me ask you this: why not go after Tony Gibson? Why not just bring Tony Gibson back? We could grab him from NC State pretty easy. I don't think it'd be a problem at all. Why not bring Tony Gibson back? Could you imagine a Jeff Castile, Tony Gibson defense together again? We had the #1 defense in the late 2000s with them two on our staff, and so that would be an amazing combination to bring back in. So why not go after Gibby and have Jeff Castile there as well? But
You
Will,
need
why don't
Castile.
I
That's the
didn't-
key.
I didn't agree with them up and promoting Jordan Leslie over Jamel Dye. I think Jamel Dye should have got that defensive coordinator's job.
Well,
myself.
we all
I think
do.
West
We all
Virginia's-
do. I'll tell you something that I heard, and I heard this from a very, very, very reliable source. Okay, so I know it's be true because this is somebody at the university, somebody within the university, and somebody that worked for the university. So I asked them. I mentioned to them one day. I said, "Why in the world would you bring Jordan Leslie and make him defensive coordinator over Jamel Dye when Jamel Dye is a West Virginia guy? Everywhere he's went, the defenses have improved. He's a great recruiter. Everything. Why would they do that? Why would Neil Brown do that?" And he told me, he said, Jamel Dye has some baggage. There's some problems there. He's got an attitude. So, maybe that was part of it. And maybe he doesn't get along with some of the coaching staff there now. And maybe he don't get along anywhere he goes. I mean, notice he bounces around. He went from Arizona to West Virginia to Georgia and now to Miami in 4 years. So, there's got to be a problem somewhere.
Well, the key is you've got to bring both. If you're gonna have you got to have Castile. We at Michigan, if you remember, when Rich Rod came over, Castile was not able to come over, and from what I understand, it was a money situation, and because of that, the defense suffered a lot. So I think if you had both of them working in tandem again, with Gibson and Castile, I think you could have a really potent defensive combo again.
Yeah,
you got to have them both.
I agree, but think about it. Now, here's the problem I have with that, and then y'all can agree with this or not. I'd like to know your opinion as well, Kenny. The problem is in the Big 12, a 3-3-5 stack defense doesn't work that great. It's not like the Big East. In the Big East, that worked fantastic. And the reason why is because there was so much speed. When you had teams in the Big East, and you had Cincinnati, and you had the Miami and Virginia Techs back then, there was a lot of speed on them teams. That's why we started running that 3-3-5 stack defense. It slowed down their speed. We was able to shut the edges down and stuff like that. In the Big 12, there is still speed, but there's downfield speed, and there's some screen passes going in there off these bubble screens and stuff, and great blocking to where these offenses are pretty potent. So I don't know that a 3-3-5 stack would work as well in the Big 12. Now, in the new Big 12, maybe, when you're bringing in Cincinnati, BYU, Houston, and UCF, maybe, that's 4 teams that I think the 3-3-5 stack would work great against. But you still got to look at Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, and Baylor and TCU, who are not going to care about a 3-3-5 stack defense. They will run over you like a dog. What do you think, Will?
With Jeff Castile and Tony Gibson as a tandem, they recruit at a high level, so they can get the speed they need. That's for sure. So if that 3-3-5 was the best defense I've ever seen West Virginia have, because of look at the interceptions and things that we got when they put that in there. Because offenses had a hard time figuring out where the open spot was going to be on the field. And that's the thing with Tony Gibson and Jeff Castile. they were masters at it, and so that's what I think.
They were, and to a good point here, Jeremy made in the comment section. I'll bring this comment up because it is a good point. And that said, what are you talking about? He's asking me what I'm talking about, and you're right, because Iowa State's been running that 3-3-5 stack, and it's bread and butter, and shut down tons of offensive power. True to a point. It's not slowed down a lot of teams. It's not slowed down West Virginia from scoring 40 points on them. It's not slowed down Oklahoma from scoring 40 points on them. It's not slowed down Texas from scoring 40 points on them. That's the problem with it. You got to outscore people in Big 12 when you're going to run a 3-3-5. Now, to the Iowa State's credit, they had that one year that they were fantastic. What was that? The COVID year. They were just absolutely shut down. That was a COVID year. So look at them this year. They're not doing that great. Last year, they didn't do that great. So that would be my defense to that.
Well, to my defense to what you're saying is they didn't have the defensive scheme like Jeff Castilla and Tony Gibson. So, I mean, you got to be able to make adjustments on the fly, and they did.
Yeah. Kenny, I'm going to let somebody else come in. You got any more questions, buddy?
I got one more.
Okay.
What do y'all think that if they do happen to release Neil Brown, do you think Rodney Gallagher will still come?
Oh, he could flip to Notre Dame, in my opinion. He could flip to Notre Dame. And look at Will. He's going to start smiling right here.
Will just lit up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah, he did. He could flip to Notre Dame because I think Notre Dame was his second choice. And I don't think he ever considered Penn State to be a choice, in my opinion. I think it was always West Virginia or Notre Dame, and he chose West Virginia. So, yeah, I think he could flip.
But basically, by saying that, you're saying that Neil Brown is the sole reason or the key reason that Rodney Gallagher is choosing you guys over Notre Dame. Is he secretly a really amazing recruiter?
Yeah, Neil Brown is. It's amazing how good of a recruiter he is. And the thing about it is, he's a fantastic coach Sunday through Friday. Just amazing coach Sunday through Friday. Great recruiter.
I love that line.
It's just Saturday is horrible. He can't coach on Saturday. So, I mean, but Sunday through Friday, man, you couldn't ask for a better coach. He just really couldn't. So we just need to hire a coach on Saturday, I think. Maybe we just do that. Will, are you available this Saturday? We need a coach. All right, Kenny, I'm going to rotate somebody else in, man. Appreciate you stopping by, okay?
All right.
See you, Kenny.
All right, no problem.
Have a good one, buddy.
Later.
All right, we got another one here. We got,
what's up, guys?
It's Wisconsin sports fan. What's going on, buddy? Story.
Not much.
Big night for your Phils, bro.
Yeah. Big game tonight. Game 3 of the World Series. First Marquette football undefeated since 1960, as always.
There you go.
Yeah.
But I
was in Philly the other week for a conference. And the energy in that city, man, is just
insane.
Absolutely insane. Because the Eagles had beat the Cowboys that week, and obviously the baseball success. So they are extremely thrilled over there.
Yeah, they are. And the soccer team, the Union, they're headed to the final, MLS Cup final, next Saturday. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about West Virginia and Wisconsin's coaching searches. First, West Virginia, Matt Rule is my number one guy. But outside of him, I think we should give a look to Jamie Chadwell and Sean Bryan. I really like what Chadwell's done at Coastal Carolina. Same thing with Bryan at App State. And I wanted your guys' thoughts on that.
The problem with Chadwell is I just don't know what the fan base will think about bringing another successful group of 5 coach in. Because Neil Brown, I don't think Neil Brown was as impressive at Troy as Jamie Chadwell is at Coastal Carolina, but I'm just not sure that's what the Boosters won. Just another Group of 5 coach.
Yeah,
I agree there. Then one other comment on West Virginia. With what we're seeing with Neil Brown, you guys just talked about this. He is such a great recruiter. He reminds me of Steve Wojciechowski, former Marquette basketball coach. Phenomenal recruiter, but couldn't get Marquette anywhere into the tournament. First round exit every year. It's the same thing at West Virginia. It's great recruiter, brings in good players, doesn't do anything with them, and it's a real problem. But Wisconsin, I say Lance Leopold. He's my guy. Won 5 D3 championships at UW Whitewater. He was a grad assistant under Barry Alvarez. I talked about this last Collins show. Wisconsin and Madison, they need a new era. Barry ball doesn't work. They can make the college football playoff with 12 teams if they change it up and start passing the ball and recruiting quarterbacks. I've talked about it here. I've talked about it on our streams, over on Sorgy Stories. It's a thing. Wisconsin fans, it seems like, are tired of it. Jim Leonard's been doing great things. He's another guy I think that West Virginia should look at. If he keeps it up, Wisconsin's got 4 games: Maryland, Iowa, Nebraska, and Minnesota, I think, are the 4 left. I think they can win most of those, make a bowl, but we'll see what happens. I think West Virginia should look at him, though.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked that Wisconsin even fired Chris. I don't know why they fired him myself. I mean, it just shocks me. That
I didn't see it coming.
I didn't either. I can't believe that. So it makes me wonder if there's not something internal there somewhere, something else. But I'm not saying there is. Just wondering. I've always been curious about that. Why would you fire a coach that's so successful at a program? I mean, now
unless
maybe he's not Barry Alvarez, but I mean, he's pretty daggone successful.
Unless they already have some type of verbal agreement with someone else. So
right.
I have a theory that Bill O'Brien is potentially either for one of these Midwestern openings would be a decent pick. And my rationale is, look at what he did with a Penn State program that was in the toilet after sanctions and everything else. He stabilized the program. He kept things rolling and then allowed James Franklin to come in. And obviously they started having 9 to 10 wins a year for a while and beat Ohio State in 2016, won the Big Ten. So I'd say O'Brien is somebody you got to look at if you're a Nebraska, a Wisconsin type program.
Yeah, I don't have any sources in the program, but I will tell you, I think it's just that the donors are saying, we're tired of running. Let's bring in something new to this university. There's potential there, and they need a guy who actually knows how to pass the ball, and it's that simple, really. I'm going to get on out of here. I know that there are a lot of other callers. I'm going to be close to you, Joe. I'm going to be in the Mountain State in a few weeks. Can't wait to get back there and enjoy Thanksgiving.
Let me know.
I will. I don't know. Hopefully we can do some when GBD's there, too, because I'm there usually 4 or 5 times a year. So let's go Mountaineers. On Wisconsin, Marquette football undefeated since 1960. Happy Halloween, go Phils. I will see y'all later.
See you later, Sorgy. All right, so Sorgy Stories, go ahead and sub him up, guys. He's got a great channel over there. So, I like we was talking about the Wisconsin. I was really shocked when they fired Chris over there.
Me too. Yeah.
But if I look at things, in my opinion, I know Lance Leipold's got a lot of ties to Wisconsin. I just think he's a better fit at Nebraska myself. I don't know why that is, but I just feel like he would be a good coach at Nebraska. I think Matt Rule would be a great coach at Wisconsin. But, I mean, I don't know why that is. Why I feel that way. I can't pinpoint why I feel that way. It just sort of feel like Nebraska maybe wants to open it up a little bit more, like Lance Leipold does. I think Wisconsin fans would be a little lost if all of a sudden they got Lance Leipold and he's opening up that offense and they're throwing down the field and there's no time consuming game going on. They would be like, what is this?
Here's the trend we're seeing. Nick Saban broke college football.
Yeah.
That's the trend we're seeing. Because if you remember 10, 20 years ago, people like Kirk Ferentz were not the exception, they were the rule. Coaches would be there 20 years, 30 years, and you'd have down years. You'd have seasons where you had 3-4 wins. But you also had your seasons where you're winning bowl games, 9-10 wins. Maybe occasionally you get up to that top echelon once or twice. Paul Chryst, 20 years, 30 years ago, would probably have a job for 3 decades, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's what we're just seeing is it's not good enough to just have a good running game, but you've got to beat teams like Ohio State, Michigan, and occasionally sniff the college football playoff, or they're going to try to find somebody who will do that.
One thing that I always do is warn fan bases about the hot hand. So in other words, what I mean by that is in 2019, when we hired Neil Brown, he had a hot hand. He had just come off of 3 10-win seasons at Troy, had upset Nebraska, had upset LSU, a highly ranked LSU team. So he had a hot hand. He was a coaching hire that a lot of people wanted. West Virginia got him. And look what he's done. All right. And then in 2020, everybody wanted Matt Campbell. Remember after 2020, man, Matt Campbell's a hot hand. He can go wherever he wants to and name his price. Nobody's saying that now. And then Lance Leipold at Kansas. Everybody's talking about him now. Hey, next year, who knows what can happen? He may fall apart next year and Kansas be right back down in the dumpster. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Lance Leipold is a lot better coach than any of them coaches I've mentioned before. But I think that there's always that chance that Kansas could fall off a cliff next year with Lance Leipold and nobody would want him. Now, with that being said, Kansas is putting a lot of money into their facilities. What was it? $300 million they announced to put into their football facilities. If they're going to put that kind of money into their football facilities, do you not feel like they would put a little bit more into a coaching hire to keep a coach on board with them? Don't you think they would offer Lance Leipold a little bit of money to keep him?
Yeah. I mean, Lance is an interesting one because you got to feel for Kansas. The second they have a coach doing semi-well, now everybody's saying we want he's the head, he's on the hot list for this job and the hot list for this job. Like, I feel kind of bad for Kansas. Like, they're finally having a somewhat decent season. They're probably going to get a bowl. And everybody wants their coach. It's crazy.
Right. Well, welcome in John Marzullo, H2P. I guess that's Hail to Pitt. Am I right? Hail to Pitt.
It is Hail to Pitt.
Okay, let me find the boot button. Let me find the boot button to kick him out of here. I'm just kidding. Welcome in, man. How you doing?
Good to see you as always. Just piggybacking off of the whole, I guess, Nick Saban effect, if you will, that y'all were talking about. I think what it does too is the fan base, especially being a younger fan, I guess, in the context. But the fan effect of, I'll use my own program because it's a good example. Narduzzi has brought a stability to the program that Chris and Graham tried to do, and just instantly the fans were just so appalled by what they saw that they said, you've got to go, and the boosters kicked them out. And Narduzzi has been there, and while yes, the one quote unquote flash in the pan season that was last year, and whether or not it is flash in the pan is to be seen as future progresses, but the fan base here is already saying, I want him fired on the backs of an 11-win season last year. And that's just, you as a mid-tier program, you don't have the booster money of a Tennessee, Auburn, Alabama. You don't have that luxury to go and get whoever you want whenever. And so I think it just is a trickle down to these mid-tier programs that they have the illusion that they can get whoever they want.
Yeah,
And
Narduzzi.
John, you're touching on something there that I want to point out.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of people telling me, well, West Virginia is a mid-major program. No, they're not a mid-major program. They're a mid-tier Power 5 program. There's a difference in a mid-major program. That's a Group of 5 team. And a mid-tier program. That's a Pitt in West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad you said that. Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, no, you're good. So Narduzzi, I have tremendous amount of respect for what he did as a defensive coordinator at Michigan State. I think he's created some really good defenses. He also look at what happened with Kenny Pickett, and they had a fantastic season, winning the championship. You can make an argument that, oh well, it was Kenny Pickett, and now, but he had to get Kenny Pickett. Their recruiting staff had to. I don't remember the exact particulars. I forget if he was did he come up the program or?
Yeah, so he was the product of actually another transfer in Max Brown that got hurt during the Penn State game in 2017. And they threw in another local guy, Danucci, to just eat minutes. And then when that went south, it was, okay, we're playing the number 2 Miami, throw Pickett into the fire. And he actually ended up winning the game by multiple scores in his collegiate debut.
Legendary.
And that kind of started the hype train, I guess, behind Kenny Pickett. But
yeah, Ben DiNucci went to JMU, right? And then
yes, he
went
did,
to the
and was very
Cowboys.
successful there.
Yeah, I remember that.
I don't want to turn this into a Pitt talk thing, but I just found it fitting because we're talking about, when you talk about West Virginia and the Big 12, the Big 12 is faced with an interesting scenario, similar in a way to the ACC, but there's a lot of mid-tier programs in that conference that some of them have been very successful as of late, or at least in the last decade. They've all had some sort of flash of real prominence on the national stage. But they've also fell victim to a lot of larger fish in the pond when it comes to coaching searches. And I think what it says is, for a West Virginia, a Pitt, even a Wisconsin, you kind of have to nail your coaching searches. You have to know when it's a good time to go after your guy, and you have to nail it. This isn't an SEC team where you can just kind of take shots, and if it doesn't work after a year or two, you can them and you go after the next big fish.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. But now, I will say this. I think the ACC is a great conference. I really do, at the top. But when you talk about the Coastal Division, or you talk about the bottom of the conference, there's no comparison between anybody top to bottom in the Big 12 compared to them teams. The Big 12 is a much stronger conference when you're talking like that. I think. Now that's just my opinion.
Well, for sure.
About like 5. Yeah.
I'll just say this. From someone that watches the ACC and thinks that most years we get a lot of flack that we maybe shouldn't. The division system has probably hurt the ACC more than it has any other conference when it comes to perspective. Because when you have a year like this year, where the Atlantic Division is actually one of the stronger divisions, if healthy, in college football, I believe top to bottom. But they all have to play each other. So the optics from somebody that doesn't watch a lot of ACC football, you see a lot of teams in that division that just beat up on one another because they have to play each other. And then the Coastal is just in shambles. And that's why, as a Pitt guy, I'm so disappointed with a 4-4 start, because frankly, how many programs in the Coastal Division have new coaches? How many programs in the Coastal have new quarterbacks? There's just the division system going away next year for the ACC is probably the best thing football-wise that they have going for the conference. because it will allow the two best teams, and I believe there will be two very solid programs at the top, just like the Big 12, playing for the championship.
Right. Now the Big 12's always played the round robin, of course, because we only had 10 teams, so everybody played each other. So we had a lot of we didn't ever have that problem of divisions. Now, are we going to have that in the future? I don't know. But we're going to have 12 teams, so we can't play a round robin, of course. So we're going to have a pod system or something. So I agree with what you're saying that sometimes divisions can hurt, but at the same time, in the Big 12, you look at this year, for instance, West Virginia lost to a Texas Tech team that's not real great, but beat a Baylor team who's pretty good. That same Baylor team turned around and beat the crap out of Texas Tech. And so where do you draw a line and say, okay, who's good and who's bad in this conference? But it's pretty easy in the ACC to say, hey, Miami's a pretty bad team, and that's nothing, not knocking Miami because they'll be back. It's Miami. But this year, Miami's a pretty bad team,
Yeah.
Wake Forest's a pretty good team this year. But now next year, Wake Forest will probably be at the bottom, and Miami will probably be at the top, so.
Well, depends on what they do with the offensive staff.
Yeah.
Of Miami. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
14-12 and 4 overtimes, right?
Right. It is. It becomes increasingly hard to draw a line, I guess a tier list almost. You've got Clemson at the top, and there's a tier list in every conference. We could run through them all, but Clemson at the top, and then really in the second tier, you've got teams that can be really, really good at their best. You've got North Carolina. You have, I guess, Syracuse this year. The NC States as of late, Pitt as of late. At their best, they beat anybody. You chuck any team in the country on any given Saturday, they can win the game. But then that tier also, they can lose to absolutely anybody that plays them. The App States, the Western Michigans, the Georgia Techs. They will lose to anybody, and that's the problem when it comes to optics of the conference. When your second and third and fourth best teams can lose to absolutely anybody, you cannot really gain a strong optics anywhere else.
Let me bring this comment in, and I want to bring this comment in. So Ted says, I listen to college football shows all
Call
day,
in, Ted.
every day.
Call in, Ted.
Call
You guys
the
are not
show.
knowledgeable
Go in.
about anything. I won't do that. Come on in here. Let's see how knowledgeable you are, Ted. Put your money where your mouth is. Come on.
I'm ready.
Let's see it. Yep. We ain't hiding. We're right here. Here's the StreamYard link. Let me post it again for you, in case you miss it.
Here's
there.
the thing, and
I'll
this
post
is,
it again
and
for you.
Mark Rogers talks about this all the time, and people are talking crap about his lists and everything that he does. It's like, you know what? I do 4 or 5 call-in shows a week. You have every opportunity to come on and debate the lists with me personally. If somebody's going to make a comment in the chat saying, I'm stupider for having listened to this or whatever that comment was, well, you know what? Instead of hiding behind a keyboard, just come on and talk to us.
That's right.
Let's see how it goes.
And no hard feelings. Come on in. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Where are we wrong on anything that we've said? Now, I'm probably wrong, but I guarantee you, John and Will, they know what you're talking about. But anyway,
I've got a question for I guess you, Joey, and Will, just because I know who you guys are fans of, and it could extend over to you, John, if I knew.
Michigan.
Michigan. Okay. So you're better off right now than the rest of us three in terms of on field.
Yeah, I guess.
But
this year.
Yeah, but for Will and Joey, who
hold on a second, John. Hold on a second, and I'll bring you in. I'll also bring you in another successful program right here, Alabama.
Okay,
hey, we got Todd Guy.
I wanted to tell you guys why you're all wrong.
Can I just say, this man successfully predicted that Brian Harsin would be fired, and then in 16 hours, Brian Harsin was fired, and that's why you got to watch College Football After Dark, which Todd Guy is on regularly.
And John, if you go back to that show last night, I said he would be fired before November 1st.
Yeah.
Darn
All right,
impressive.
John. I'm sorry, John. Go ahead with your question, buddy.
No, I was just gonna say, what is the, and I think I can gain for West Virginia. I have a decent gauge because as Pitt people and as West Virginia people, we have pretty good gauges of how the temperature is on each other's fan bases pretty often because they often intertwine. But what is the temperature like around the fan base? Just as far as you may very well be looking at another coaching search again, but your fan base, and I'm frankly jealous of y'all's two's fan bases because Notre Dame's having a pretty lackluster season compared to what some expected, and West Virginia, by all accounts, is having a pretty lackluster season compared to what all expected. But what is it? What are the fan base, like the general, not the hardcores? What is the general morale around the fan base?
It's actually pretty good at West Virginia. If you notice, we had over 50,000 fans at the stadium this week with a losing record, right? With a pretty bad record. We had over 50,000 fans. So
That's great.
and we have the last couple of weeks. So I mean that's a pretty good thing. Somebody is at my door. Hold on a second, guys, and you guys go ahead, and I'll be right back.
So with the improved recruiting for Notre Dame, the expectation is pretty high coming soon, but we still got a new coaching staff in, so like everything's still getting tilted out. We're probably going to get rid of our offensive coordinator, but the expectation still is to beat USC. We must beat USC, or this season was going to be pretty sad. But if we beat USC, even if we do lose to Clemson, or if we beat Clemson, it's a pretty successful year. So even though
USC's going to be like a 10-win team, I don't think there's any shame in losing to them. And Caleb Williams, who's going to probably go to New York City.
I will say this though, and this is perhaps a little bit of beef with what happened last offseason between my program and that program. If they are in the playoff, they are the most overrated playoff team I think I have ever seen.
They don't scare
USC?
me, really.
They have tons
USC
of
doesn't
talent
scare
on
me.
offense. They cannot stop anybody. Arizona carved through them like a hot
I
knife.
don't talk about this much because I don't want to pee off Tim, and Tim's
So,
pretty soft when it comes to
Let me say something, though. If you're going to say USC would be the most overrated team because they got an offense, they got no defense, are we talking about Ohio State? How many years has Ohio State gone to the playoff and they got an offense and they ain't got a defense? Oklahoma. How many times has Oklahoma showed up with Lincoln Riley in an offense and no defense to back it up?
And I don't – Oklahoma making the playoff those years was a joke to me too, because for that same – if you're giving up 40 points a game, you're not the top team in the country. I don't – frankly, you don't – and it thrown out every playoff game they've played. But to me, and I've said it this year about Ohio State because up until this week, I was kind of confused on all the press that the Ohio State defense has gotten this year just because they had Jim Knowles when they played like Arkansas State and the bottom tier Big Ten teams, which are not very good, until this week when they rolled into Happy Valley and looked pretty – the defense had a great game. Don't get me wrong. The defense won that game. They look very beatable in Happy Valley this week. So for the Michigan fans, I would feel very good after watching what a Penn State team that I don't think is good but not great competed for 3.5 quarters.
Am I going to be the one to have to defend USC on here?
I will tell you, USC's defense is much improved over it was last year. That USC team, I tell you right now, if I threw the USC team into the ACC or the Big 12, you're looking at your champion. USC is going to roll through the ACC. USC is going to roll through the Big 12. They're going to be your champion. I would put.
So I want to.
Right now, TCU is the best Big 12 team. USC is going to beat them by at least 14. You're going to put them against Clemson. I would have them beating Clemson between 7 and 10.
See, I would agree with you.
I want to say something real quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
John, just a second. I just want to say real quick, because we never properly introduced anybody here. Ty Guy, welcome to the stream. Appreciate you coming in. Also, we have Jeffrey from Only Talk Sports with us. And man, I tell you what, for a young guy, Jeffrey's one of the most knowledgeable guys I know about football. John, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, buddy. Go ahead, John.
No. I was just going to say, I think you're absolutely right, Tide Guy, on they're the champion of those two conferences. However, I will say this, that I think you're right on the basis of they win the game and they probably win by multiple scores. They also match up very well against Clemson and very well against TCU, in my opinion. Clemson's not going to score enough points to hang with them. It's the same way Oklahoma would wins the Big 12 those years they did. You can win the conference with pure points if the team you're matched up with has a good defense and not a good offense. Now, would they match up with Tennessee? No way.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Can anyone this year?
Yeah. No. Think about this. You guys are talking Tennessee. Tennessee has no defense. Okay. Alabama lost to them by 3 points. We gave 17 penalties. We killed ourselves every chance we had, and we lost by 3 points. Tennessee should have killed us. They didn't. Tennessee has no defense. And let me tell you what, USC does have somewhat of defense. I guarantee you Tennessee does not beat USC by more than 7 to 10 points. If you want to put USC up against Ohio State, look what Penn State did to Ohio State this weekend. Penn State has no offense. Michigan exposed Penn State, and Penn State exposed Ohio State. USC is going to beat Ohio State. Ohio State has all the talent in the world. They just don't use it in big games. The only teams USC would struggle against, I think Michigan has too good of a running game.
I think Notre Dame does as well. Honestly, I do think we do. I think we beat them. I think we gash him on the run and beat them again.
If you have a running game, you're going to take them, Will. You will. I mean, if you've got a running game. And the other thing Michigan has, Notre Dame don't have it as much, but Michigan can also throw the ball. I mean, they like to run the ball, but the passing game is there. And the problem with Ohio State is they've played one team all year. That's it. And they look terrible. And if Franklin would have got the flu at the end of the third quarter and had to go into the locker room, Penn State would have won that game. Penn State lost because Franklin can't win a big game.
And I get a lot of crap for saying that because I'm a Pitt guy saying it about Penn State. I get a lot of crap about saying you need a better game day coach.
Let me talk about this real quick. Mark Spinella, thank you for the follower super chat. He says if Ohio State and Michigan both are 11-0 going into the horseshoe, they should agree that the loser will not go to the college football playoff Final Four, winner take all.
False. No, I mean, I don't think it's going to happen.
A lot of it's going to depend on TCU and Clemson. I mean, a lot of this is hinging on because, well, and also, though, you're going to also have to look at UCLA, USC, and Oregon. I mean, all of this is depending on these teams. How many – if TCU goes undefeated and Clemson goes undefeated, you're going to say goodbye to a one-loss Big Ten team.
Correct.
And you're going to say goodbye to a one-loss SEC team. I mean – because that's going to be two spots. We all can agree on one thing. The SEC winner is going to the playoffs no matter who it is, and the Big Ten champion is going to the playoffs, whoever it is. So those two spots are already locked. The winners are in. So now we're fighting for third place and fourth place. And if Clemson runs the table and TCU runs the table, there's not going to be another team from the SEC or the Big Ten in.
Let me throw this scenario out just for fun. Let's say Illinois loses one more, but they still wind up in the Big Ten championship game and beat Ohio State or Michigan. What happens then? I don't know.
Well, that you would have a problem because let's say in that scenario, what you would have would be Illinois would have to beat Michigan because that's who they're going to play. Okay, so if they beat Michigan.
Or Ohio State, yeah.
And then they beat Ohio State in the championship because Illinois and Michigan play in the regular season. So if Illinois somehow knocks off Michigan, And then it becomes interesting. Then let's say Ohio State wins against Michigan and Illinois beats Ohio State with one loss. Does a one-loss non-champion from the Big Ten make it in over a one-loss SEC team if it's Tennessee? Let's say Alabama beats Tennessee in the championship, and the only loss Georgia has as a defending champion is Tennessee.
Right.
You're going to have a nightmare.
And that's why we're getting a 12-team playoff, folks.
Yep. And this is a good year for it, because tell me a team right now that you guys have watched through week 9 that is number one. You can't argue. They're number one. They're dominant. There's not that team. You can find holes with Georgia. You can find holes with Tennessee. Ohio, Bama, everybody. Everybody has a hole.
Michigan.
This year, there's not Georgia of last year, the Alabama the year before, the LSU. There's not that one team that you just look at them on paper or look at them in the game and say, this team wins every game by 20 points.
Yeah.
You mentioned
Michigan looks like a very – sorry.
Oh, you're fine. I just wonder, you mentioned TCU a while ago and about, finishing their season undefeated. There's a remaining schedule. There's no way, I don't think, that TCU finishes undefeated. They may lose this week to Texas Tech. I mean, the way Texas Tech dominated West Virginia and TCU and West Virginia were so close, there may be a chance they lose this week. But then after that,
I see 2 losses.
Texas and 2 Baylor. I just do not see them running the table. So I think that we're going to have a loss there. TCU's going to have a loss there. Your other undefeated Clemson, I'll bring their schedule up too here in just a second.
Well, and I'll tell you one thing, Joey, about TCU. I never thought they would be undefeated this far. I mean, to me,
right,
they're probably the lowest of the undefeated teams. But you know what? They might have that Cinderella story in them, Joey, where, they're just good enough to squeak by everybody.
Right.
Well, and so then there's – oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just going to share this one here because this is the rest of Clemson's football schedule. So you've got they got to go at Notre Dame this week. A good chance they lose that game. Then they play Louisville.
Fingers crossed. Not as confident as that one as I am with the USC game.
Louisville's been showing out, but they got to go to Clemson. So I see Clemson winning that game. Miami, they'll win that. South Carolina, I think they'll win that. If Clemson can win this weekend, they got a very strong chance of running the schedule, in my opinion. But, you're talking about Clemson and TCU. I'm picking Notre Dame this week to upset Clemson. And I'm picking Texas Tech to upset TCU. So
I think what you got this year, and it makes it very, very interesting from a just fan of the sport perspective. You run through it, and you've got USC in the Pac-12 with look pretty strong. You've got TCU still undefeated in the Big 12. Obviously Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia are all there in the SEC. And then Clemson in the ACC, but no one still realizes – I mean, as crazy as this sounds, North Carolina still has one loss. North Carolina and Clemson could theoretically meet in the ACC championship game where Clemson is undefeated and North Carolina has one loss. You've got a lot of scenarios for chaos come champ week that could really make the committee decision interesting if you get a weird champion with one loss in a power conference.
But the problem
that's
is
why, in my opinion, sorry, Tiger, can I say this real quick? I think that it stinks when you lose late because you talk about North Carolina like that with Clemson. If Clemson lost to North Carolina, they'd be eliminated, but North Carolina would have a chance. That's not really fair because to Clemson, obviously they're going to be knocked out because they lost late. But when you have like Illinois lost to Indiana, you're saying if they won out, then Illinois would get in. But it's not fair to these teams that lose late that they get bumped when you lose early and then you get to climb back in. I always think that's unfair. There's no way we can fix that or change the ruling on that, but I just don't think that's unfair because a loss is a loss. In Illinois, if they did win out, I guess you could say they belong, but they still lost to Indiana, even if it was in week 1. But it's just that, to me, that's all messed up.
Well, and the problem is if North Carolina was to beat Clemson, Carolina would never get in the playoff, unfortunately. Just because of who they played this year, the way they played, the struggles.
They just got outclassed by ND.
Yeah, I mean, they barely held on to App State. They're not that good of a team. And the problem that the ACC is having right now is it's Clemson or bust. The other teams, unfortunately, just don't have the clout in this playoff with the 4 team. I'm not saying it's deservedly so. I'm just explaining how ESPN and the committee looks at these games. And it's not fair. And I'm glad that we're going to open this up to more teams. But if you're not in Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, if you're not a true blue blood or Clemson, you're looked a little different. And you're held to a higher standard than what, the SEC teams are held to. And, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying, unfortunately, that's the world we live in today.
Oh, for sure. And can I add to that one quick sec, because I'm a Pitt fan, so ACC guy. Because of that, it's not like a school like Pitt doesn't know that. They figured that out. And our non-con next year, until last year, our non-con this year was supposed to include West Virginia, Notre Dame, Cincinnati, and Tennessee for that reason. It was all supposed – those were the 4 games. We did not schedule a cupcake for next year. We moved Tennessee to this year, to 2 years in a row instead of taking a break. So now it's just Notre Dame, West Virginia, and Cincinnati. But teams like that are stacking their non-con on purpose so that they get at least 3 quality wins should they run the table just to get optics. It's for no other reason, because they would much rather play the home games and make the money.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, it's not fair. It's just the world we live in. Everybody, and I say this all the time, I'm really not an SEC homer. There's a clause that says, the SEC gets 6 teams in the top 25 to the preseason poll. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. And unfortunately, the Big 12, when they lose Oklahoma and Texas, they're not going to have that power team. And so if we stayed with the 4-team playoff, it would be really hard for them. So by expanding to 12 teams, it guarantees the Big 12, who doesn't have the alpha team, but they don't have the terrible team either. All of the Big 12 is somewhere between, I would say, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, a B+ team and a C+ team. That's where all of the teams fit in.
I agree with that.
And they deserve a chance at the playoff.
Well, that's why when they were talking about on the show the other day, they said that you had the 4 seed is going to be the weakest champion, and that 5 seed is more likely always going to be an SEC team. And that 4 or 5 matchup is just screwed for that last champion, because they're more likely going to always be the worst team than that 5 seed, more likely from the SEC.
But now, in that same instance there, Ty Guy, you're saying when Texas and Oklahoma leave, there's not going to be that one program. Texas hasn't been that one program for over a decade. I mean, they've not been a good team at all. They've been getting punched in the mouth in the Big 12 pretty much year in and year out by teams that, like West Virginia, for instance. West Virginia is, I think, the only team in the Big 12 with a winning record against Texas overall. So, Texas
right, but unfortunately, that's not how the voters see Texas.
Right, that's not how the voters see it. They look at that. They look at that title. That they're a blue blood. It's a blue blood. I understand that. And they did that in the preseason rankings this year. Throwing Texas in there really high up and stuff. So I just don't. I just think that there's so many good teams in the Big 12. And like you say, there are no A-plus teams. There are no Alabamas. There are no Georgias. I agree with that. So, John,
right, but you could take most of your conference.
I'm sorry, John Marzullo, I've got a couple of people in the back room. Did you have any more questions for us? I need to rotate you out and bring somebody else in, buddy.
Just, I guess, one more. Sorry. I guess if you had to pick who gets in at this point, like, and this isn't considering the rest of the schedule, who are the best four right now?
Well, my teams,
in my opinion, it's Tennessee. It's going to be Tennessee, Ohio State, Georgia, and that fourth spot's really tough for me because as a Big 12 guy, I want to say TCU, but I don't think they're the best team.
It's going to be Clemson. They're going to put Clemson in there, I bet, because of their history of doing well in the playoff before.
I agree.
Right, I think so too. So, and I think that's going to be your four.
Oh, one more real quick. Sorry. And then I'll boot me and I'll listen to your answer. But so the Clemson situation has always kind of confused me because they don't really have a tremendous history like a lot of the Blue Bloods do. However, they've done very well in the playoff era. So in a way, they're kind of the poster of some teams just need one opportunity and they take it and build a really good program around it. I get that they had a prior era of success before this last run, but really this last run has catapulted Clemson into the same tier of the Alabamas and of the real Blue Bloods of the sport, which I guess speaks more towards the 12-team playoff. But what do y'all think of so some programs may just need a shot to take that next step. So maybe reward a team with a flash in the pan season here and there.
Well, I think with the extended playoff, you're going to have that. And the thing with Clemson is look at what Clemson's done the last 50 years. They won a national championship in 1980, I believe, when Ford was there. So you had a national championship there, and you had two in the teens. So they've won 3 national championships in 50 years, which, compare that to Texas. That's more national champions than Texas. You put it, to a lot of these Blue Bloods. But the problem is from 36 to 72, Clemson didn't have a lot of history, and so that's why they're not a blue. They don't have the early on wins to make them a blue blood. I put Clemson kind of in with a Florida State, Miami, kind of good dynasty teams. They've had really good runs and spurts here and there.
Yeah, and I felt like Notre Dame never got that. My dad told me Notre Dame never got the respect till they broke through and beat Miami and won the national championship. Before that, Fauci just ruined it. So it's easy to come back up and come back down if you have a bad run, you go down and then you go back up when you have a magical season.
All right, John, I got to rotate you out, man, and bring some other people in, but I appreciate you coming in with us. All right.
All
right, John. Have a good night, buddy. All right, so I can't wait to bring this next one in. This is great. All right, so
I have a bad feeling about who it's going to be.
Here we go, guys.
Happy Halloween, everybody!
Happy Halloween!
I thought it was going to be D4 trolling me, but it's Rick. Let's go.
How we all doing?
Man, we're doing great.
Doing good.
We're in the Halloween spirit. Look at that.
Hey, man.
Tell us about your attire. Rick.
All right. My attire. I've got my SC jersey on, 55, the King hat. I am a USC fan from 2004, 2005 when we ruled college football. And I had to get in this outfit. I almost drove off the road and crashed when I was listening to your show. Props to Golden Blue dude. Joey, thank you for hosting. But Ty Guy was talking Oh my God! It's like I paid him or something. It was a USC commercial. I was like, "Stop, tie dice! Stop, tie guy! You're killing me." But USC would win the ACC or Big 12. My goodness,
you would. You guys would.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Imagine if I were to say that, Joey, John, Jeffrey, and Will. Imagine if that was coming from me. You guys would just say, "Oh, just another SC blowhard." But coming from Tide Guy, that's why you got to subscribe to his channel. Tide Guy is a well-respected, non-biased college football expert, in my opinion. He's a historian. He's an old dude like me, and he's going to tell you the truth. Whether or not you like that truth, that's on you. But he's going to tell you the truth.
Yeah, because unfortunately, Rick, right now I'm telling the truth that Tennessee has a good team, and it kills me.
Yeah.
I hate myself for saying.
Yeah, that's not too. He was saying nice things about.
Did you guys see that Tennessee fans are selling his shirt second Saturday in October champions? They're like selling sweatshirts.
Third Saturday.
Hey man, they're selling third Saturday of October like hoodies and T-shirts.
Listen,
I'm like, they
cash
never
in,
does
man.
That after they beat Tennessee. Like they haven't
got to cash in on that.
They're celebrating after one win.
Will, on their site, I put on there anybody between the ages of 18 and 30. Please buy children's gear now because it'll be another 15 years before you beat us again. So that,
Hey, have you guys brought up the Brian Harsin situation? Yeah. I don't want to really.
We did a little bit.
Okay.
But go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I just found it surprising. I expected Neil Brown to go down today, but it was Brian Harsin, which he could have been gone week 1, 2, 3. Keep on choosing, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the reason that they didn't, Rick, is because they didn't have an athletic director. They had no one to fire him.
Hey, they got enough boosters that would stand in for athletic director for a day or a week. Trust me. But I want to get Ty Guy's response and everybody else here. Is Auburn that smart, or are they trying to get some attention because they don't have any attention by firing Brian Harsin the Monday of one of the biggest weeks in the SEC this week with Tennessee playing Alabama and LSU playing Alabama and Tennessee, Georgia. Did they do this on purpose?
Roll Tide, baby. Roll Tide. Let's go.
They did this for a couple reasons.
I think because they suck.
Well, the first reason, though, I hate. The first reason is that we got National Signing Day like 6 weeks away. So you got to get rid of your coach. You got to let these recruits know that, this coach who is coaching bad isn't going to be there. Now, do you want to go to Auburn? And I'm not going to discuss this as a Bama fan because, I hate Auburn. But think of what Auburn has done to their coaches. They brought this guy in and didn't even give him a year before they gave him a headache, went to fire him, couldn't fire him, and had to give him another year. Before that, they got rid of Malzahn. They got rid of Chisney. It's a great job if you can sign an $80 million contract guaranteed and 2 years later get fired and take the money and run. But to go there and actually build a team, it's not a great school to go to, because if you go there and let's say you win a national championship, if you don't win the next year or the year after, you're fired. So you're going to go somewhere where you have to be Alabama, because if you don't beat Alabama, you're gone.
And that's why I saw on Twitter today, people were saying Lane Kiffin. It's like, come on. Why would Lane Kiffin go there? He already left crazy in Tennessee. Remember that? They named a sewage plant after him. Okay. Yep. Why would he go to Auburn, which is just delusional, when you're building something at Ole Miss? You're the king of the sip or the ship or whatever you want to call it. He's dripping at the sip, right? Yep. He's strutting into the grove. He's the king, right? Yep. He's building something. He's in the same division as Alabama, so he's got to go against Saban. So those people are delusional. I'll tell you right now, Lane Kiffin is not going to Auburn, all right? He was at Auburn and saw the crazy when USC kicked Auburn's butt back in the day, 2003, 23-0. He knows about Auburn. The guy that I would be looking at is Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning's coached SEC. They have more money in the SEC. Auburn doesn't care about – I saw Oregon fans like telling me I was crazy that I was just being a butthurt USC fan. Like, laugh all you want, nouveau riche Oregon fans. You don't know. Money is no option in the SEC when they want their guy. What's a $14 million buyout at Oregon? It's nothing.
Well, and think about this, Rick. Lanning has done something.
I told him they better be on the phone with Uncle Phil today to get a contract.
I was going to say,
because
I think Phil Knight has a dollar bill, and I don't think he's going to let Oregon lose its second coach in
well, there you go. They're scared. Oregon fans are scared, and that's why they're lashing out. But
I hate to say this, though, guys.
You lost Taggart and you lost Mario.
Auburn has money. They got money there. I mean, they got money, boys. And let me tell you one thing Lanning has that Kiffin doesn't have: a W against Saban. Yes, he was the coordinator. You know what I mean? He was a coordinator, but he does have a win against Saban. And the problem with Kiffin, I do believe Auburn can give him more money than Ole Miss because Auburn has more money than Ole Miss. But Kiffin's not going to go there. But a guy like Lanning, how much is Oregon really going to want to spend? Because how deep are their pockets, really? I mean, you're playing in the Pac-12. You haven't got your new TV contract. Now, we're looking at it being about the same as the Big 12. But if, as a school, you're making $50 million a year, how much of that are you willing to put towards your head coach of the football team? Because I guarantee you Auburn is going to pay $11 million for their next coach, minimum. He's going to make $10 to $11 million. Does Oregon want to spend that much money?
Absolutely. And you know why? Another reason, too, is because in 2025, Oklahoma and Texas are coming. It ain't going to get any easier. So Auburn needs to get it ramped up. And for those fans that don't think that Lanning's a possibility, don't be kidding yourself. This is college football. This is big boy. This is not 20 years ago when you guys were nobody. So welcome to the big leagues and get out your checkbook. And Uncle Phil is not always the answer. So,
and also think, Rick, the last year kind of went totally against college football as we know it. Who would have thought a coach would leave Oklahoma, a blue blood, to go to another blue blood?
There you go.
Who would have thought a coach would have left a blue blood in Notre Dame to go to a non-blue blood but a great program in LSU? I mean, the world we're living in right now is a lot different than what it was 20 years ago. You couldn't imagine losing your coach as a blue blood to anybody.
It's NIL.
Well, Rick, let me ask you a question, Rick. Rick, would you mind calling WVU in the morning and giving that same speech to them that you just made here about get your checkbook out? This is big boy football. Would you mind calling WVU and telling them to do that?
No problem. No problem. Hey, Joey, you also made a great comment earlier that you don't think TCU is going to drop a game. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. And you just look no further than what just happened to Oklahoma State. I think this last game was their third toughest game in a row. And they took a lot of body shots the two games before that, and they got knocked out. You look at what TCU's done the last couple of weeks and what they've had to come back from. I see them losing, at Texas Tech or Baylor. I don't see it sustainable.
Yeah. They're definitely losing to Texas if they beat both Tech and Baylor.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're great story, but even the most seasoned or veteran team with a veteran head coach, I mean, Mike Gundy didn't forget how to coach, and losing 48-0. They just didn't have anything in the tank, in my opinion.
Right.
And can I ask you guys a question? Brian Harsin, I truly believe he's a good coach. Auburn didn't give him a chance. I mean, you look at how they treated him last year. They handicapped him last year. And then this year, he got stuck with coordinators that he did not want. And then going into this year, he could not hire coordinators. It had to go through the athletic director. And then the athletic director left, so when he wanted to make changes, there was nothing he could do. So I'm not saying Harsin is a top 10 or top 20 coach by any means, but there are some teams out there going to be looking for coaches that he would be a good fit for. Joey,
so you're thinking.
West Virginia.
Because West Virginia fans are saying it. West Virginia fans are saying it too about, hey, hire Brian Harsin. Why not get Brian Harsin in there?
Creative
I've
offensive
seen it.
line.
I agree, but I don't know. I just don't know about that. I think that Tom Herman should be who we go after. Period. I just really
agree.
believe we should go after Tom Herman.
Got to interview Brian Arsenal.
But Joey, can I ask you something about Tom Herman? And I brought this up last night, and I don't know the answer. What has Tom Herman done since he left Texas? Because he is a good coach, but nobody's interviewing him. He's not, talked about in jobs, because what he did at Texas in 4 years, he took them to 4 bowl games. Yeah, they didn't go, 11-1 or 10-2, but they were, 8-9 win teams. He was a good coach. So why isn't his name being brought up more?
I think he's just sitting back enjoying the money. I mean, Texas fired him. He's sitting back enjoying that money right now. That's what I think. I don't think if he's in
him and Matt Canada,
back enjoying the money. So,
him and Matt Canada, I thought that they'd have head coaching jobs by now, but I think they rubbed some people the wrong way. They're brilliant offensive minds, and I think that they will both. This is the year, I feel like, if there's going to be a year for Tom Herman to come back and be a head coach, it's going to be this ridiculous coaching carousel that's happening right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Canada, but Steelers fans want him out immediately, just like Bama and Bill O'Brien.
Now, another thing that I've been hearing, and I don't know how true it is, so I kind of hate to bring it up, but I've heard from 3 different sources that there's going to be another job opening at the end of the year in the Big Ten, that Kirk Ferentz is thinking of walking away because he knows his son is not going to be there anymore. And he's been at Iowa for a long time. I mean, let's face it. He's been there since, 90, and I don't know for sure, 97, 98. So, I mean, he's been there, quite a while. And I'm hearing rumors that he's thinking about walking away.
Is there a world in which Brian Ferentz doesn't get fired? I think there could be a world that, because Kirk kind of has the AD by the you-know-whats. And
I think his only chance would be to go back to being a line coach, to go back to being, the problem is it's not only that he's the offensive coordinator, he's also the quarterback coach.
Yeah, that's the problem, because they're not good.
And no offense, that's like putting me in as a quarterback coach. I never played the position. I don't know, you know what I mean? And you see this a lot in a lot of jobs, but you put a guy in a position to train people that's never done the job. So, I mean, and look at how the quarterbacks are playing. So I think Brian's only chance of staying on would be a demotion. Put him back with the line. He did a good job with the line. He did, put a different play caller in. That would be about the only way I could see him staying.
I agree with you 110% on that with Brian Ferentz. And again, we've said this 100 times. If Iowa's offense was just top 60, then Iowa could easily be a top 10 program, or maybe not top 10, but a top 15 program in the country, because their defense year in and year out has been so good, but their offense is just terrible. And it's ridiculous that Brian Ferentz is still the offensive coordinator.
I've said this multiple times. If Iowa had a Penn State level offense, they would be a playoff team. That defense was stopping first round draft picks 2 weeks ago. It's good. They need the offense to at least be second tier Big Ten level.
Well, I mean, you think of how bad that is. I mean, they played Illinois to a 6-3 game. The first game of the year, they scored 7 points, mostly on defense. They scored 7 points against Iowa State. They scored 10 points on a pick 6 against Ohio State. That offense is not doing Iowa any favors whatsoever.
Can we change that mantra
on Northwestern?
I'm sorry. Can we change that mantra that says defense wins championships? Have an asterisk, and if you have a top 50 offense.
Yeah. Add an Iowa exception to that. Yeah.
Jeffrey, so you've come in and not give you a lot of opportunity to talk. What did you have a question, or did you want to talk about anything, Jeffrey? Or because
I didn't really know. Will
you,
gave me the link. Will gave me the link, and I was just like coming on here or whatever. I was eating dinner, and that's why I had my camera off. But yeah, I mean, nothing really crazy. I didn't even see that Brian Harsin got fired. I didn't even see that until you guys started talking about it, because I've been just doing stuff today. But yeah, that's crazy. I mean, you're right, Ty guy. I was just going to talk about on the Auburn thing when you were talking about that. They never gave him a chance, and I agree with you 110%. And my thing is, if you're gonna, it's not just important to pay the coach $10 million. I mean, obviously, we know what Jimbo Fisher's doing at Texas A&M. We get that he's underperforming. He's got all the players, and they're not winning. But at Auburn, Brian Harsin did not have the players. Auburn's talent level is poor compared to what it's been in the last few seasons. I mean, Auburn used to be a top 10, 15 talented roster, and they're awful. I mean, their best players Tank Bigsby by far, and their quarterback play is poor. Their wide receiver plays down. Their defense is awful compared to what it used to be. And I think that, obviously, I know it's the coach's job to recruit, but Brian Harsin never had a chance. He was not there long enough. And you see what Lincoln Riley's been able to do at USC, where he was able to bring in the transfers with NIL. Brian Harsin and Auburn, they never were able to do that. And I think Auburn needs to put their money where their mouth is with the NIL and get more players. It's not just about the coach. They need better players too.
I think that, so, with Jimbo, they're saying how they're like girls and weed in the locker room before and after games. If some Me Too thing comes out about what one of the players did to another girl, Jimbo could be fired with cause, no buyout money. So I think that A&M might try to slide their way out of this, like try to get a girl to say something that a player did something to them and get them out.
Oh, man.
And bring in Urban Meyer.
I don't think that would do.
Wow.
I don't think that
I
would
think
fly.
they're going to pay the buyout.
No matter what you
They
think
got
of Jimbo
so much
Fisher,
money.
yeah, no matter what you think of Jimbo Fisher, I don't think they would stoop that low to do that. And I think that most the college football world would know that that's just really not Jimbo Fisher's style. It really isn't, in my opinion. So I don't think that would go over very good.
I just heard that on the Zach Smith show that they might do that, but
they already have the reason to fire him with cause. It's already on YouTube. You guys can go look it up. The video's been out there. The video's been out there since March. Jimbo Fisher's one of his offensive coaches was talking to 7 recruits in Kyle's field. He pointed up to the names around the stadium and said, those guys up there are the guys who will pay you. So that coach already talked about pay, which is a recruiting violation. It is a tier 1 recruiting violation. And that video's on. I mean, I'm not making it up. Go
I
on
saw
YouTube.
it.
See it. Yep. All they got to do is Texas A&M has to call the NCAA and do like Tennessee did and say, look, we're self-reporting a violation. This is what it is. It's a tier 1. Just like Jeremy Pruitt when he gave bags of money in McDonald's bags, he's gone.
Yeah, but the thing is, if he was winning, then they wouldn't do that at all, obviously.
Of course
winning solves everything.
Right, winning.
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous.
And the thing is, if they were winning, it wouldn't have been a McDonald's bag. It would have been a KFC bucket.
All right, Ty Guy, you are hilarious. Like I said, you've got to do like a Friday night, 15-minute comedy, quarter hour. What do you call it? Because your jokes kick off the college football weekend. Think about it.
Do the SEC comedy hour.
There you go. Not even a comedy hour. You can do 15 minutes. Appetizer.
Now, Jeffrey, I have a question for you about your boy Tom Allen. Do you think that his job is safe right now with another disappointing season at Indiana? Do you think he's safe right now, or do you think he could go?
My thing about Tom Allen is that coming into the season, I asked Mark about Tom Allen, and I was like, you think he could get fired? And Mark Rogers said, no way. But with all this stuff going on, like the NIL, it's a whole new world, as everybody's talking about. I don't think anything's impossible. I think that Tom Allen could get fired, but it is Indiana, and the buyout is large, and I don't know if Indiana is going to be willing to pay Tom Allen, I think like $20 million or whatever it is to get rid of him. If it was like in Auburn, obviously be gone. But just because it's Indiana, I think he's going to get another year. But I think that to say that there's a chance for him to get fired is amazing, because I would have never said that a couple years ago, even if his record was like this, because I think NIL has changed the game. I think there's a slight chance he could, but I don't think this year's going to be the year. But he needs to start winning, though. He is in trouble.
Now, Jeffrey, can I ask you a question?
He just got like a 7-year deal in 21, didn't he?
You're
Am
right.
I wrong? Yeah.
Yeah. No, he just got a 7-year deal. My question for Jeffrey is this, though. If I was Indiana, I would hold out 2 years. And here's the reason why I say 2 years. Next year, nothing's really going to change. But in 2024, you're going to have USC and UCLA, and the rules are changing. There's not going to be the two divisions. The problem with Indiana right now is you play Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State every year. There's 3 losses. No offense. I don't care what coach you bring in at Indiana. It's going to be hard to beat those 3 teams. And also in the West, you got Maryland playing pretty good ball right now. You even got Rutgers, who is much improved. If we took Indiana right now and swapped them with, let's say, Purdue, if you were Purdue right now and you could play Iowa, Nebraska, Northwestern, Wisconsin, where are you? You're going to have the 7-win season, the 8-win season where he keeps his job. So next year I would kind of write off as a wash again, because you're still going to play the Michigans, Ohio States. But in 2024, who are your 3 permanent games? Who are you going to play? Odds are you're going to lose at least one of either Michigan or Ohio State. So your schedule's going to get easier. And I think he's a coach that can do good at Indiana. Oh, we lost him.
Yeah, we lost him.
What do you guys think?
On that note, too, Austin has come in the back room 3 or 4 times, and every time I go to put Austin in the chat with us, he drops out. So I don't know if Austin's having some trouble. Jeffrey's back. Here we go.
I'm sorry, I had an internet problem there. But to answer part of your question, I didn't hear the whole thing because I cut out. I'm sorry. But I think that you are right about 2024. I agree, because, like, you're right, Indiana, it's 3 losses automatically. And it's funny because everybody's like, oh, there's a chance. Indiana's never, like Ohio State, it's a joke. It's like playing Alabama in the Citadel. It is what it is. They're not beating Ohio State ever. Michigan, they're usually not going to beat them. Penn State's a chance, but it's rare. I think you are right about the divisions. The divisions do screw Indiana over, because you do look at the Big Ten West and it's a lot weaker. I mean, you have, like, if Indiana was in the Big Ten West and Purdue was in the Big Ten East, it'd be very interesting to see how, if roles were reversed on that, how much better Indiana would have been over the decade versus Purdue. I think Purdue would be one of the worst programs, and Indiana might be a decent program as well if it had been switched, because obviously the Big Ten West is a lot weaker. I think that it is a great point. I think that with the divisions gone, maybe Indiana might be able to do a little bit better, but still Indiana's really struggling, because even this season they lost to Rutgers, and they shouldn't have lost to Rutgers. And they almost beat Maryland, but they didn't. So Indiana was a couple years ago beating the teams that they were supposed to beat that were around their level. And this year and last year they have not. And I think that's what's really hurt Tom Allen.
But, I mean, you guys did hold in with Michigan for what, a half? Little into
they beat us.
Started pulling away, I mean.
Let's remember in 2020 that Indiana beat Michigan. Indiana was just one Ohio State win away from being probably the Big Ten champion and going to a playoff. That was their year. Unfortunately, didn't work out. Ohio State won the game. But I would say this. I would say it's extremely hard to be Indiana right now. Going into 2023, your first game is Ohio State.
Lost.
You also play Michigan at the Big House. You also play Michigan. I mean, Michigan State doesn't seem that great, but still Michigan State. So you're playing 3 devastating at least good to devastating opponents in the Big Ten East. Plus, you've got crossover games. It's really tough to be Indiana. I would say Tom Allen, you got to keep him. I would say till 2024, unless he stinks the bed so much that we're looking at like 0-12, 1-11 seasons until you have another opportunity. But it's just the Big Ten is so tough, especially in the East, to do anything. Like you guys said, Maryland has been doing really well this year, beating a lot of teams. It's not easy.
Like you said, Rutgers is getting better.
Rutgers is getting better.
Improved. So that whole East Division is getting better, and
yeah, I think what's frustrating about Indiana though, just is because you have like, then a lot of people obviously.
I think he froze up.
I think he did.
Jeff, he froze up on it. Yeah. Jeffrey, you froze up on it.
I'm sorry. I'm having internet problem. I don't know why. I'm in like literally right next to the internet. But I was saying that the thing about Indiana is that I don't understand is their roster's pretty decent, but the biggest issue is their offensive line. Their offensive line is horrible. They cannot protect a quarterback that is not mobile. Obviously, it's kind of like, to me, I feel like you're talking about Austin, his team, Louisville. Malik Cunningham, Louisville's offensive line is not the greatest either, but Malik Cunningham really helps them out because he can run the football. But you have like Indiana, they have a non-mobile quarterback. He cannot move at all, and he needs time to throw, and he has literally no time to throw. They have decent running backs. They have decent receivers. Their defense has been kind of up and down all season, but I feel that if their offensive line was better, they could have easily been 5-3 and 6-2, and then everybody would be saying Tom Allen will be fine. And Tom Allen, Indiana is a good team. They're doing really well this year for their standards. But the offensive line's really let him down, and I mean that is on Tom Allen because he knew the offensive line was poor, and he really did nothing to fix that problem in the offseason. And he finally fired the offensive line coach in the middle of the season, but that should have been done before this past season. Everybody knew he was a bad coach, but he still kept him until this season.
Let me highlight this chat here. So Silas is saying no clowns in here for Halloween. Silas, are you not looking at the screen in the bottom middle? The bottom middle. I mean, he's a Trojan fan, but tonight he's our clowns in here. So, so listen, guys, let's wrap this show up. We've been on for a little over 2 hours now. Great show, man. I appreciate everybody coming on. We had a great time. It doesn't really seem like it's been 2 hours. I just happened to look, and it has. So
it really has. It doesn't feel like it.
No, it doesn't. So, let's start with you and let you give us your final word and tell everybody where they can find you. And I know you got a big show coming up tonight at 10 o'clock on your channel.
Yep. I'd like to end with talking about the SEC a minute. I think this is going to be a great week again for college football. You're going to kind of decide both divisions in a way because you're going to have Georgia play Tennessee and Alabama's going to play LSU. Now, I do understand we still got to beat Ole Miss next week. So, I mean, we got another step to take. But the winner of Georgia and Tennessee is pretty much guaranteed the SEC playoff or the SEC championship. And I think Alabama does enough this weekend to beat LSU, and we'll get to play Ole Miss next week kind of for the SEC West championship. And everybody out there tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern, every Monday night I do a sports Jeopardy. Most of the people on here, they come in and out of the show and are on the panel. I tell everybody, hop in. If you want to play sometime, just let me know. And every week I bring in somebody new. And that week, if you come in and you can beat my panel, you'll win a prize. And then on Thursday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern, we do just a trivia game. We do Trivial Pursuit. We ask questions, all different kinds. So if you're free on Thursday night, you can hit me up also.
All right. Thanks, Ty Guy. Rick, tell everybody what you've got going on, man. I know you do a lot of stuff over on Mark Rogers' channel as well.
Yeah, first off, I just want to say, Joey, thanks for having me on. Good luck to the Mountaineers the rest of the year. I hope you guys find a few more W's. I know it's been not the year you guys wanted, but good luck to all the Mountaineer fans out there. You can find me on the USC postgame show on Mark Rogers' Voice of College Football with co-host Tim Brangley and Tony Altsmore. We also do that's right after USC games. And you can also find me on the Pac-12 live chat show Wednesday nights, 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific. And you can follow me on Twitter right there at LBC Trojan. So thanks a lot for having me on. Have a happy Halloween. I've got to go out with the young kiddo to a party.
All right.
Happy Halloween,
Thanks for coming
Hi,
on,
everybody.
man. Jeffrey, only talk sports, man. I tell you what, sub this guy up. This guy has such a great channel, and he does a lot of things with Will up there in the top right corner too as well. And Jackson actually popped in the back room earlier, and then fell out. Jackson don't have the greatest internet, as we all know. So, but Jeffrey, tell everybody where they can find you at and what you got going on, buddy.
Everybody can find me at Only Talk Sports YouTube channel. Again, like you said, me and Will every Thursday, once on his show on his channel Will and D, and once on my channel every other week. We do we've been doing a college football preview, like game preview show and all that. And I do tons of previews on my channels and predictions on games, and I do like recaps and stuff of the weekend. But I'm glad that I was able to make this show. Thank you for having me on here. Like I said, Will sent me the link. I didn't even know this was happening or anything, but it was fun on here, and it was a good conversation.
Thanks, Jeffrey, for coming on. And before you leave, hold on a second, because Bo is asking me to ask the panel who they're taking in the Georgia-Tennessee game. So, Ty Guy, real quick, who you taking, Georgia-Tennessee?
Tennessee.
Jeffrey.
I want to pick Tennessee. I want to pick Georgia so bad because I think they're better, but I think I gotta go Tennessee too. Tennessee's the upstart team. I gotta go Tennessee, I think.
All right, and Will, I'm going to let you say your final word and give us your pick for Georgia, Tennessee.
My final word is this is where the real season for Notre Dame begins. Obviously, before that's been pretty disappointing. Although we've had a couple of nice wins, but if we finish the season off 10-3, I would say it's a success for a first-year head coach. And I got Georgia just because it's at home, and I feel like Georgia is that I can't remember the last time they lost when they've been. Actually, they did lose to South Carolina with Muschamp one year, but I do think Georgia is at home. I think Kirby will dial some defenses up for Hendon Hooker, and I think that they'll pull off the win.
But keep in mind, Will, Tennessee wants to rush that field. That way, Georgia has to pay the $100,000 this time.
That's true. That's true.
There you go, Will. There you go, Will. There's your comment for tonight. Notre Dame's prediction.
Notre Dame. There's your new nickname for you.
I'm gonna go drop my link in the chat. So I would
okay,
appreciate a sub.
John, tell everybody where to find you at, man. What you got going on, and give us your prediction for Georgia, Tennessee.
Whew. Well, I'll start with prediction. I'm taking Tennessee outright. 7 points. I think they'll pull it out. Hendon Hooker is currently the Heisman front runner. I think he'll get it done. Where you can find me. So every Sunday night, I moderate the College Football After Dark show on Mark Rogers, the voice of college football. And that's every Sunday night at 10:45 p.m. Eastern, 9:45 p.m. for those of you Central. We have things happen like Tide Guy accurately predicting that Brian Harsin would get fired. So if you listen to the panel, you very well might get a piece of info that a lot sooner than other people. So that was pretty cool. Also, I do with D4 Sports, I do the Michigan review preview where we chop up game film and talk about what's coming up next for Michigan. And so all of that stuff that you can find me. You can also find me on Twitter at John D'Adamo.
All right, thanks, John.
Thanks for having me.
I want to thank the panel, and I want to thank everybody for coming in tonight. I mean, you guys have been great in the chat. I've been watching a little bit of the chat when I could, and you guys are having fun over there, and I appreciate you coming in and being with us tonight. But hey, you know what? This was a last second show, and cheers to the panel that came in with me. And cheers to everybody that joined the show. You guys have made this a great show. I mean, this has been a lot of fun. So I appreciate everybody. Golden Blue Dude should be back tomorrow night. Like I said, him and his whole family are sick. So let's send our best wishes to Golden Blue Dude, and he should be back with us. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see everybody later.